Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome everyone. Today we bring another contentious issue. We will be talking about Bangladesh and the current situation, both political and legal. Um, as we know, just a recap, in 2024, 5th of August, there was a mini revolution. Some call it uprising. The student uprising, brought about change of government. The former government of Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League, the whole party, the whole government fled, and basically they siphoned off 250 billion pounds dollars out of Bangladesh. 67 army officers were killed in Pilkhana, and hundreds of protesters from Hifazat Islam were also killed, and the stock market was almost collapsed a few times during their tenure. So as a result, there was no sort of freedom of speech, there was no human rights, the whole system almost collapsed. So today we have a very special guest with me. In front of me, we have Barrister Nazir Ahmed. He is a lawyer, a columnist, a former deputy speaker from London Borough of Newham, and he's also a human rights activist. I have great respect for Nazir Bhai because I've always seen him actually fight for the rights of expats from the UK, whether it be through Greater Select Council or on his own. I also follow his writings in different newspapers, and he's also appeared in many national TVs in Bangladesh. And recently, he did something which I was really, really glad. I'm a sufferer. Basically, as expats, if you want to buy, sell land, normally what happens is people go to the High Commission and get a power of attorney done. It was very simple before, like whether you could do it with a British passport, Bangladeshi passport, or even a birth certificate. That was the system 5, 6 years ago. And then all of a sudden, the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina changed it only to Bangladeshi passport holders only. The problem is a lot of the expats did not have Bangladeshi passports. And, thousands and thousands of people actually faced problems selling or buying land or giving powers to their friends and family in Bangladesh. And as a result, Nazir played a crucial role. He campaigned for this, for the change. He went and met the current interim chief advisor, Dr. Mohammad Yunus, and as a result, I think the day he came, literally the next day, they changed the law. They actually sent a memorandum to all the High Commission around the world, and they changed it basically overnight. So thank you, Nazir Bhai, from the bottom of my heart, and I think a lot of the expat community, especially in the UK, really appreciate that. So Nazir Bhai, I hope I introduced you well. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Yes. So obviously, Nazir Bhai, like you're very active within the Bangladeshi community, and you've campaigned a lot of issues, with regards to the expat community, especially Bangladesh. Right now, I want to ask you. We had a mini revolution in 2024, 5th of August. Um, Personally, I think we should have had a revolutionary government, which didn't happen. Things would have been much easier. But because we actually, the government took oath under the old constitution, which is very questionable. The constitution which allowed Sheikh Hasina to become a dictator or autocratic government, basically in Bangladesh. It's very sad to see we are where we are. There are very obviously you're a lawyer, you're a barrister, and you can actually take us through, what could have been done and what is happening right now. So as far as my understanding goes, basically, personally, I think revolutionary government would have been much better. But because the current government took oath under the old constitution, there are many barriers, hurdles, which we are facing. The very students who actually ousted the former prime minister, they formed a pressure group called the Nagorno Committee. They wanted to make a lot of change, but they couldn't. They had very they had many hurdles and barriers, and then ultimately they formed a party called the National Citizens Party, the NCP. I mean, and obviously recently we saw the July Charter being signed by all parties except the NCP, the Students' Party. Um, and Jamaat, as far as I know, they were not going to sign it, but I think last minute they came in signed the July Charter. But then they are saying they still have reservations. So can you explain to the audience what is the current situation? Where are we heading from now?
Thank you, Mr. Ruhul Amin. It is lovely to be with you, and I would like to thank the listeners and viewers probably that they will be viewing this program later on. And you have correctly said there was a mass uprising, you can say revolution, on 5th August last year. The nation had a high expectation because what happened, the previous autocratic government ruled the country with ruthless, without due attention to the law, order, or constitution. They have violated the constitution. They have made election and voting a laughing stock for 1.5 decades. People could not vote. So in that background, there was a much uprising in July, and eventually on 5th August, the Prime Minister had to flee the country. And with her, most of the MPs and ministers fled the country and took shelter, mostly in India and other countries of the world. And Dr. Yunus, who was outside the country, he was called upon, requested to take the charge, and he took oath on 8th August. And basically, 3 days from 5th to 8th, there was no government functioning in Bangladesh. And as you correctly said, people expected after such a revolution or uprising, there will be a revolutionary government or the government with full authority. But what we saw, the revolution or mass uprising went in the wrong direction immediately after 5th August. Constitution was not suspended, and they took oath under the constitution where they are not able to follow the constitution, and there is no provision in the constitution of such interim government. And the much mass uprising was in such a scale that all judges of the apex court of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, they fled as well. The Imam of Baitul Mukarram Mosque, he fled, and even Bangladesh Bank governor, he also fled. So in such a scenario, some people are trying to argue that the government was formed under the opinion of section article 106, which is totally misleading. The whole apex code fled the next day. They were under the shelter of army, and there was no hearing. There's no opinion in such a scale. There was 2 or 3 opinions sought in the past. If you compare this opinion with the other one, you will laugh. Uncomparable. So those who said the government was based on Supreme Court's advisory opinion under Article 106, totally misconceived and misleading in my opinion. The government was formed based on the revolution happened on 5th of August. And people gave overwhelming mandate. Article 7 of the Constitution said people's wish are the supreme law of the land, solemn expression of the people. So based on which the government was formed. The day one, the revolution has been hijacked or derailed or taken into a different way, in a misleading way. Otherwise, problem that we see now would not have happened. Any coup, for example, done by military chief, immediately afterward, the constitution is suspended. The country is normally ruled by military rule. And People's revolution and mass uprising has higher status than normal military rule. So why constitution was not suspended? I spoke to a senior judge of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, retired judge. He agreed with me. The government could easily suspend the constitution and rule the country with a proclamation, or they can still keep the constitution as it is, but there was a declaration needed to be made saying that if there is a conflict between constitution and proclamation, the proclamation will prevail. Saying that on that condition, constitution could be uh, in force. But now the constitution has been violated or cut into pieces by the previous autocratic government in such a way that one cannot fully follow the constitution without violating it.
Right.
Article 7B clearly said 1/3 of the constitution cannot be amended at all. So how can a parliament bind future parliament? There is no such a notion can be found in the world. And Article 7A says if there is any conspiracy to derail, damage the constitution, then they will be subjected to highest punishment of the land. What is the highest punishment under Bangladeshi capital uh, penal code is death penalty. So if the previous autocratic government could come back, then those who are in the government and those who led the revolution will all be subject to highest punishment. So that needs to be borne in mind. And if after a revolution, what normally happens throughout the world or even throughout the history could be followed in Bangladesh, then we would not have seen what we are seeing now. Very unfortunate. Dr. Yunus had huge popularity on the day he took the oath. Whole nation was behind him. Unfortunately, after 1 year down the line, what we see, his popularity has gone from sky to almost zero. He could be a national figure, international figure, well known, have known him very well. But running a charity or giving speeches throughout the world is one thing. Running a country is different thing. He appointed some old, to some extent, some of them are incapable advisors who can't run the country, who do not hold the spirit of the revolution. So very unfortunate. And they are unable to work. I mean, if you send some of the advisors to a remote district in Bangladesh, the next day they will come to Dhaka and take probably rest for a week. So if that sort of personality, if you appoint as an advisor to run the country after the revolution, what can you expect? So people are frustrated. Law and order situation been deteriorated. Normally a country, to run a country, you need around 50 to 60 ministers, state ministers. Initially, he took 10 advisors and then he increased to 20. Why not he took competent advisors from 18 crore people in Bangladesh, as well as overseas? There's a lot of competent people in Bangladesh, as well as outside Bangladesh, among expatriates, who can run the country very well. And he appointed his known figures from Chittagong region, his old students from his own NGO, Gramin. So those are not skills, those are not criteria to be appointed to run the country. So very unfortunate. And history will judge him differently, believe me. People are watching, seeing, but may not be able to make a comment. But in history, down the line, it will be, he will have to come in the public eyes. He would be criticized the way he has run the country. So now, what we have seen, he formed a reform commission. Reform commission have given various reform commissions, especially six main reform commissions have given a clear recommendation. And if you do not follow the recommendation, and if you cannot compel the political parties to implement the recommendation, what was the point of forming those recommendations? So what he did, he set up a National Consensus Commission. And they have spent, I would say, wasted months after months um, agreeing this and that. And then eventually they have uh, come to a conclusion of so-called national charter. But again, a major political party who will go into power if election is held tomorrow, for example, they have given note of dissent on each and every major reform. So what does it mean? That means that I do not agree with that content.
Exactly.
So after the election, if they go to power, they will say, we have disagreed, so we're not going to implement this. So what is the point of having all those months discussion? And the government should have an upper hand, strong hand, and compelling the political parties that look, after giving life of more than thousands of people and being injured at 20 to 30,000, we cannot afford to go back to old scenario. So we need to implement those reforms. So unless you agree and give signature and undertaking that I'm not going to declare election, so every political party would have to come under this. But what we see in negotiation, one party saying, then other party countering, and then at the end of the day, they agreed. I mean, most of them, are put a note of dissent by a major political party. So I'm not hopeful on the way it was proceeded. Again, there was no clear legal basis for legal charter. Again, what is the significance of this in the eye of law? We don't know. So there is no roadmap how this would be implemented. Those should have been on the table before signing. So whoever signing should be able to see what are going to be made. Nothing happened. We saw July declaration done on 5th of August this year. And again, a lot of distortion of history. I mean, I've looked at this July declaration, and they mentioned from 71 the state will jump to 7th November, as if there was no 15th of August, no 3rd of November. So those are misleading, and that declaration mentions that 1,000 people died, were killed. Again, UN report clearly said 1,400 people died. And governments and advisors now and then saying more than 1,000, 2,000 people died. So what is the exact figure? So why didn't you take full details of who have died? It is not a great task. Very easy. Only 1 year ago, revolution happened. So they could have easily made that, but they didn't go ahead like this. So irony is that we are very much reckless in counting people who gave sacrifice highest order. For example, in Liberation War, we could not make a list of the people died. Again, that happened 54 years ago. But now, July Revolution happened only 1 year ago. So why didn't you take full list of the people who were killed by the autocratic government? Very unfortunate. They gave their life, the sacrificed highest asset they have. The life is the most important asset of any human being, and they sacrifice. But again, government failed to count and make a list of the people died in July Revolution. So this is what have happened. We are waiting for election to be held in February, but circumstances is such that a lot of people are doubting whether election would be held at all. And the law and order situation is such that, and we have seen in the last 1 week, there was a major fire in 3 installations, very important installation of a nation. And government is anticipating more could be happen like this. So if that happens, and if there is a disunity among the people, if there is no law and order situation improved in the country, how can the election be conducted? Will the election commission be able to conduct a free, fair election? We can't see any proof of their competency. So this is how people are being run. The nation as whole, particularly the government, failed to live up to the expectation of the people, those who participated. I mean, the whole nation participated in the mass revolution. This is a historic event. This sort of opportunity, Ruhul Amin Shah, would not come again and again to the nation.
Exactly.
But we failed to materialize, and we live outside Bangladesh, but we feel from bottom of my heart for Bangladesh. And very unfortunate, July Charter and July Declaration failed to mention the contribution of 1.5 million expatriates living out of Bangladesh, and nearly 1/10 of the population living outside Bangladesh. So how can you make a country progress, and how can you have an election conducted free, fair, credible, without you bypassing 1.5 million expatriates whose remittance are lifeline of Bangladesh? And chief advisor, when he goes abroad, he makes a lot of sugarcoating reference to expatriate. But when he comes to action, especially July Declaration, July Charter, ironically, he doesn't mention any contribution made by the expatriate. The French expatriate, they have 12 member of parliament elected by French national living abroad. Turkish president election we saw last time, their expatriate voters voting was the deciding factor who would be elected as president. But now we have not been given rights for the last 54 years, despite being crucially played role by the expatriate. Very unfortunate. And you correctly said power of attorney was very easy. 6-7 years ago, the autocratic government unreasonably and unjustly put a condition that if you want to give a power of attorney from abroad, you have to have a valid Bangladeshi passport. Totally illogical, irrational, unreasonable. What is the significance of having a valid passport in giving power of attorney? Power of attorney is not a work permit that you have to have a valid Bangladeshi passport.
Plus, another way it prevents foreign investors.
Exactly. I mean,
it will actually discourage foreign investors.
Exactly. And also, it is the fundamental and constitutional right for Bangladeshi national living abroad to give power of attorney. It is a natural right. Even one capitalist, very known person of our British Bangladeshi origin, he suddenly phoned me one day saying that I had a property in America worth about 10 million pounds. And I instructed an attorney there. And he said, Mr. Blah, 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 give a power of attorney and I will sell and put money into your account. And he said, you don't need to be a solicitor. You just, download a power of attorney from the website, get it signed and witnessed by two persons. That's all.
There you go. So why can't we do this in Bangladesh?
Exactly. And he said, so easily I was able to give the power of attorney. But Bangladeshi government made such a difficult thing. So I wrote article, I attended about 15 seminars right across the UK and abroad. And I attended about 10, 15 talk shows. And also I encountered past autocratic governments, law ministers, etc. Then eventually after this government came to power, we visited Dhaka and met chief advisor on 5th of August last year and explained all these details. And during my last visit in January, I met a law advisor. Personally, I convinced him to change this. And I said, you are professor of law. Politicians may say many things. They can promise to build up a bridge where there is no river. But you are law professor. So people will not forget you if you forgive you if you do not do this. So eventually he convinced, and I thought he gave the word. I thought Bangladeshi politicians give word and then they forget. But luckily, when I came back from Bangladesh via Hong Kong,
Yeah.
I received a call from Law Ministry, and
Yeah.
then I spoke to Deputy Secretary in Law Ministry, and then they took draft uh, on what is called circular, and I gave the circular in details, and the next day they published it in the website and put the circular in different embassies, high commission right across the world. So it was a good move, and I was fortunate and blessed to be able to make a contribution for millions of expatriates.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, Nazir bhai. So thank you for your contribution. Basically, I just want to add, basically, when it comes to like came to recruiting the advisors, obviously, I think personally, and a lot of experts think Dr. Yunus could have done better. He could have, hired a lot more experts. Um, Even yourself, I think you're more than qualified, to become an advisor.
I, I, I,
The-
I fully
yeah.
agree, Rolbai. I mean,
Mm,
expatriate has so much. For example, in England, we have hundreds of experts in
mm,
different fields, be
exactly.
it doctors,
Mm,
engineers, lawyers, public representative,
mm,
you name it. I mean,
mm,
similarly, America, Australia, and Europe,
mm.
we have very
100%.
skilled and competent people, but you
100%.
have to hand them. They would not, live this uh, very blessed life and then go
Exactly.
on
Exactly.
their own. I mean, you have to, for example, Dr.
Eh,
Mahathir Mohamad from Malaysia, he used
mm,
to come to London and talent hunt so that
exactly.
the people could be brought there. So
100%. Yeah.
Dr. Yunus could do a lot, but
Mm. Yes,
what he
I
did,
mean
we have
this is
seen.
one of the major criticisms that a lot of people say to me, because I'm quite active and I'm quite alert. I follow what's happening in Bangladesh because I do a lot of charity work, and I go to Bangladesh quite often. I love Bangladesh, and we all want to see Bangladesh prosper. So I
Exactly.
think
I mean,
he could have done a much better job, and a lot of people criticize Dr. Yunus because they say like running a business like Grameen Bank or Grameen Phone is one thing, and running a country is another. And like you said like normally on average, Bangladesh needed around 50 to 60 ministers to run the country. Like
exactly.
when you run the country with 10 advisors, even two,
Exactly. A
uh, you know,
country
um,
with a country with
yeah,
180 million people. It's not a joke.
exactly.
And we support Dr. Yunus. We
Mm,
need him to be ruthless,
mm,
to be a proper administrator running the country.
mm,
You have outlawed a party in activities
mm,
consisting of few crore members and supporters.
mm,
And you think that, I mean, you will be, living in a luxurious life without any precaution.
mm,
So you have to be those who are involved with crimes. You should uh, bring them back to book. So you have to be an administration. No, and you must make sure that no innocent persons
mm.
are victim or victimized.
Yes. So Nazir bhai, like obviously when it comes to expats, like Malaysia is a good example. I
Mm,
know that Mahathir Mohamad, he did invite a lot of expats who went back from Europe and America and built the country. Similarly, in our neighboring country like India, in the 90s, I'm sure you remember Nazir bhai, you're older than me. India
mm.
actually invited experts with talent from Europe and America to go back to India and contribute, and they were given special status, special facility,
Privilege.
basically. Yeah, yeah, special privilege, basically.
Yeah,
And look at India now. India is the third largest economy after like America, China.
exactly, exactly.
You know,
I mean,
so,
I was fortunate to see one or two occasions. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad used to come to London
mm,
and sit with individually with each and every student, Malaysian student, especially professionals, talent student,
mm,
and that's what we have to go to Malaysia. We will match what you are getting here, but we need you in Malaysia. So
exactly.
eventually they have gone to Malaysia, and now where the Malaysia is and where we are.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the Dr. Yunus, like he's been an expat for many, many decades. He's lived in many years in US, and then finally he was in France for I think about a decade. And you'd think like again he'd be more sort of expat friendly. He does,
Hmm.
I've seen many of his speeches. He does mention expats and their contribution to Bangladesh, but it's very sad. Like there's nothing to actually acknowledge the contribution of the expats in the July Charter. If
Yeah,
there's
very
one
sad,
thing,
very sad.
exactly. And even the people who sacrificed their lives, there's nothing mentioned in the July Charter.
No,
I was expecting that there would be something to recognize these people,
exactly.
but
And
there's nothing there.
most of the advisors he has taken do not belong or do not feel or have the spirit of July Revolution. I mean, they are the beneficiary.
Bad start.
And
Very bad start.
over the year,
Mm,
Dr. Yunus, you have seen the performance of them.
mm.
So you should fire them who are
Exactly.
unable to deliver.
Exactly.
You should pick and take the new
Mm.
faces to be able to
100%.
run smoothly. But he's passing. He doesn't, appears to be seeing anything.
Mm.
So
Exactly.
that
I
is
mean,
very
these are
enjoyable.
just advisors. No, no, he's the chief.
Exactly.
And if somebody's not performing, he could, like change,
No,
advise
I mean,
them, and even bring in
look at
more people like,
look at
the BIDA chairman, Ashik Chowdhury. Ashik Chowdhury is doing a wonderful job, and
yeah,
he's being noticed all around the world, and he's doing a great
mm,
job. I'm a big
yeah,
fan of this guy. So
yeah.
I'm sure there
Few
are
of them
hundreds
in
of Ashik Chowdhurys around the
yeah,
world.
few
Yeah.
of them in his government doing extremely well,
Mm,
and we feel proud of them. But
mm,
look at advisor. I
mm.
mean, he can't even speak proper Bengali. Can't even fluently speak English. I mean,
Exactly.
I
So
fail to
sad.
understand
It's so
how
sad.
did you go to upper excellence of army rank and file. I mean,
Eh,
we have seen army officers so competent in
Yeah.
speaking. I mean, when you speak to the
No, yeah.
nation will get a message. But what he does and what he's been doing, I mean, he has
Mm.
become a laughing stock.
Yeah.
So this
Nazir
is not
bhai,
how you
obviously
control.
you've campaigned on many issues in the past and you've succeeded on many. And there are many issues which are still pending. I think that's one issue you should campaign, and I think the whole expat community should campaign that we should have a quota for, like France and like other countries, quota for expats to be parliament members. That should be a
Yeah, exactly. This is I feel passionately and I fully agree with you. 1/10 of Bangladeshi population
Mm,
are living abroad. We call expatriate.
mm,
They should have a share proportion in parliament,
mm,
and we would say 10% of parliament should be reserved
mm,
for expatriate that we see in French parliament.
mm.
And that is not too much we have expected. We have so
Exactly.
much contribution right
Exactly.
from independence of Bangladesh. When independent liberation war started, um, Bangladeshi government didn't have any money into their
Exactly.
parts. But
Mm.
expatriate from London, they gave nearly £500,000.
Our forefathers,
At
yes.
that time, £500,000. You can imagine now, nowadays, how much it could be
Exactly. A
in
lot of money, maybe into
modern
hundreds
rate.
of millions. Yeah.
And in each and every occasion, for the expatriate Bangladeshi rose for Bangladesh. We do not have any expectation to bring or take anything from Bangladesh, but we have passion that the country would be run smoothly. During July Revolution, Ruhul Amin bhai, each and every expatriate, right from the globe, stood for
Mm.
student and mass people.
Exactly.
In London, in Altawali
Mm.
Park, High Commission, they get
Mm.
out, they protest. Even in Middle East,
Mm.
nearly more than 50 people were arrested
Mm.
because they demonstrated
Exactly.
um, uh, against autocratic government. So
Mm.
their contribution, how can you forget? How can you?
Exactly.
And remittance shutdown inflicted prior to 5th August, and that has shaken the previous governments.
Mm.
And then they have doubled and tripled remittance
Mm.
following 5th August revolution. So how can you forget their contribution?
Exactly.
So time has come, not only voting right,
Mm.
and you rightly said, we should demand and agree that we should have a due proportion in parliament.
Mm. Yeah, this is my opinion, Nazir bhai. I speak to a lot of people in the UK as a community person, as an activist, and most of us go to Bangladesh. We visit Bangladesh. A lot of I know friends and family who've invested a lot of money in Bangladesh, invested in businesses, and I think most importantly, expats are the most patriots. I'm sure you'll agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
expats are the most. So until and unless any government of Bangladesh recognizes that, Bangladesh will not develop. Honestly,
yeah,
any
exactly.
future government needs to actually recognize. the importance of the expats and the contribution. After the government's industries, the remittance that actually runs Bangladesh. Dr. Yunus has actually acknowledged this in many of his speeches. He did
I
actually
mean,
acknowledge this.
the
Uh,
government approach to different countries for investment. But if your own people, expatriate, are given due share, due important, and due
yeah,
significant, then
yeah,
they will, make their investment double, triple.
exactly.
So that is the point they are missing. For example, following 5th of August, there has been a lot of rumors, misinformation spread from
Yeah,
our biggest neighbor, India.
yeah,
Government was not able to tackle fully on their own, but they failed to engage 1.5 million expatriate who could act for the government, act
mhm,
to be unofficial ambassador of Bangladesh. But
mhm,
government failed to, miserably failed. I mean, because previous government, including the government, are not and have not been properly utilizing the potential of expatriate,
exactly.
Bangladesh, lies behind. For example, similar time we became independent. United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Singapore, Malaysia became independent
Yeah,
within 2 3 years. Now, where they have gone and what
exactly.
we are now.
Exactly. Nazir bhai,
I mean,
obviously we can discuss about Bangladesh in the future,
yeah.
for days and hours. But obviously we're running out of time and
Mm.
we have only a minute. So just to wrap up, if you want to sort of summarize how you see Bangladesh going forward from here in
Thank you
say
very
two
much, Ruhul Amin
perspectives.
bhai,
Yeah.
and we will of course continue our dialogue in future. And we love Bangladesh. We want to
Mm,
see Bangladesh prospering.
mm,
We want to see a proper democratic value returns.
mm,
And everyone in the country should be treated equally.
exactly.
And constitution should have a new dimension
Mm,
following the wish of the people who took part
mm,
in July Revolution. And we urge interim government, to be more sympathetic, more acknowledgeable of expatriate contribution they've done towards Bangladesh. And Dr. Yunus, you have our support. You had full support of the
mm.
nation.